4.5, 4.2. So today we're finally talking about what so many of you have asked about, and that is my SPR build. Now, before we dive in, I'm gonna give a little bit of a backstory about how I came to this setup, and then kind of like why I decided to build this versus continue to run the 12.5. So with that being said, if there's something specific you're looking for, the chapter marks will be in the description, or you can scroll ahead using the little tracker at the bottom. But the 12.5 is still back there. That's still my baby. That's still my go-to. I love that gun. I absolutely adore that gun. That is, if I had to grab one gun, that would be it. But it does a lot of things well, but it doesn't necessarily do any of them better than something else. And that's where the 16-inch SPR comes in. So a little bit about why I built this out. I started running the 12.5, right? And you guys saw all the videos of me pushing that and pushing it out to distance. We ran the competition with it at the Recce Division, and I've been trying to find the limits of that gun. And I think that's something that a lot of people misunderstand about why I run certain guns, or I don't run a lot of different guns. Like, people see me run the same gun over and over again, and they assume I'm sponsored by that company. If I find something that I like, I continue to run it because I like it, but I also trust it and I want to find the limits of that gun. For a lot of YouTubers who do reviews, you're constantly shooting different guns and trying out different equipment, and you never get to really find the true limits of some of the equipment that you have. You never really get to find its true breaking point. You never get to find where it does really well and where it does really bad. So for me, running the 12.5 like I did for as long as I did, it gave me the opportunity to see what that gun is really capable of. Because if I just listened to everybody on the internet, everything that I did with that gun, I shouldn't have been able to do, especially shooting it in the Recce Division. After shooting some long range with Bruiser, after going to the Ridgeline course, after competing in the Recce Division at the Tactical Games, I got bit by the precision long range bug hard. And so because of where I'm at in my life and my shooting journey, because of the equipment I have available to me, and because I don't want to dive into another caliber and go into bolt guns. I do. I just don't have the money to do it right now. But because of that, the Recce Division is a great opportunity for me to compete, and I think for a lot of you to compete as well with the equipment that we have, or with things that we're familiar with. So when the chainsaw came out, it became a perfect opportunity. Tag Firearms said, we want to send you a 16-inch ahead of time to get a first look, do a review on. And I said, cool, why don't I build out an SPR with it? And I think that'd be great. And so one of the other reasons I chose the 16-inch over the 14.5, a lot of you guys had that question, is with the brace laws coming and this and that, and some of the states that you guys live in with the gun laws changing, I felt like it made more sense to run a 16-inch because this lends itself to be more relatable to what a lot of you guys are running. Now, you may not run a Noveske, you may not run this optic, but a 16-inch is probably more relatable for a lot of you that are behind enemy lines. So that's why I have the chainsaw 16-inch from Noveske. Let's get into the build out and why I went with the things that I went with. So we already talked about why I went 16-inch. The other thing that I gained from going 16-inch versus having the 12.5 is we do get a velocity jump. And with that, it aids in being more stable with wind. That was one thing I kind of got blown around a little bit at distance with the 12.5 when we were in Kansas. And so I was like, look, if I'm gonna build this out, if I'm gonna continue to shoot this series and I wanna compete, then I want to do whatever I can to help give myself the best opportunity to succeed at distance. So going 16-inch was the way to go. Still sticking with the 77 grain IMI. However, I will be testing out some different loads and some different projectiles because I was talking Big Tex, and we're gonna see what they can get. We're gonna see if there's something better for this particular barrel. But so far the IMI has been great, and for the price, it's been awesome. So kind of building everything around that. Went with the Surefire muzzle brake because it's running a Surefire can. Went with the brake because if there's a situation where I'm not running the can, this will aid itself in recoil management. And then running the 16-inch stainless barrel that comes factory in the Noveske chainsaw. And then trigger, we're running the TriggerTech Diamond trigger. Been phenomenal so far. I wanted to try something different outside of Geislieb, trying to see what else is out there and see if there's something else that I like. Also running the TriggerTech safeties. I've talked about these in other videos. They've been great. I like the positive feel. I like the way the paddles feel. Just a personal preference for me. And then going back from there, we have the Voltor A5 buffer system. And the reason I go with that is I feel like it slows down the bolt a little bit more. It smooths out the recoil. It just improves the recoil of the gun. I think the feel of it is just a little bit different, feels better, especially with some of the long range, more precision work. Personally, I think it improves. I think all guns should have the voltage system in it. That's just me. Other people have their own opinions on it. For me, this is what I like, and so I've done it in almost all my guns. And then we have the B5 stock on here. This is their precision stock. So it gives me an adjustable height of comb and then adjustable length there, a more precise adjustment. And this is the medium size, I think is what it is. For me, it's worked out really well. I think some guys will run the long or the short, depending on the gun and depending on the person. But this has been a game changer for me to get on the gun and get a good sight picture, good cheek weld consistently. From there, the suppressor that I'm running is going to be the Surefire RC2. I really like Surefire cans. I have for a while. I've wanted Surefire cans, so I've got this one, and then I have the mini as well. That one's still in jail, but thanks to Bauer Precision, they helped me get set up with that. If you're looking for a can, check out Bauer Precision. They have a huge selection. It helps with recoil, helps a little bit more weight at the front of the gun, and it helps reduce some of that blast and that signature if you're shooting at night. The level that I'm using is the MDT digital level, and it's a little bit pricey, but for me, it's been great because it's something that my eye picks up really quick in my peripheral vision, and you know it's either blue, red, or green, and so it allows you to make adjustments very quickly and see if you're level or not. And that's been a huge help in making sure that my shots are more precise on target downrange, especially as I get into different shooting positions or uneven ground or things like that. So Joe said, look, if you've got an optic on your gun or a precision optic on your gun, then you should probably have a level with it, whether it's a bubble level or a digital one. Whatever works for you, and I decided to go with this, and I like it. It's a little bit bulky, it sticks out, it's a little bit, you know, it's not as nice and neat as some of the bubble levels out there, but it's been good for me. So Optic and Mount. The optic I went with is the Night Force Attacker 1-8. You can go watch the video on why I like the Attacker, what I love about it, but it's been great for me. It gives me option to dial, gives me option to hold. I like the glass clarity, I like the daylight brightness if I use the red dot, and it's just been a great optic for me, something I'm comfortable with, something that I've used a lot with the 12.5. So switching between the two guns, it's super easy for me to pick up one and go to the other and know what I'm looking at and it be the same thing over and over again. So for me, that's something because I'm a very simple person. So the more reps that I get doing the same thing over and over again, the better it is for me. Also using their scope mount. This is the 154 scope mount, and it has been rock solid. The torque specs on it are super high on the rail, and I was a little shocked at that, but been rock solid. Enjoying it, love it so far. It's taking a little getting used to get used to the optic height. I'm used to running the Unity mount on the 12.5, so it's a little bit of an adjustment. I will say that there are pros and cons to both. When I'm shooting upright, if I'm shooting in an awkward position, I feel like the Unity is better. If I'm shooting in a more traditional position, like at a prone, I do feel like the Night Force is better, and it allows me to get a cheek weld to get in line more consistently. I can do that with the irregular defense and their little cheek placement on the 12.5, but I don't know. It's a give and take. There is no perfect option. It just depends on what's more important for you. It depends on how you use it. But the most important thing is whatever you decide, just get good reps with it, so that you know where you're going to be strong with it and where you're going to be weak with it, and then what adjustments you have to make in those different positions to get on the optic and to see your reticle and see it clearly every time. Additionally, with the optic, one thing that I do want to note is a lot of you have asked who follow me on Instagram or have seen it in other videos, why did I go with the 1-8 versus something like the 4-16 like Alex recommended, or even Joe recommends, like going to a higher magnification for this style of gun? Why go with the 1-8? So this goes back to why this gun was built. This gun was built for competition in the Recce Division in the tactical games. And I want to try to compete in the IWI series up in New Hampshire. Arizona's got their accurized barrel match. We're trying to get the PRS here in Texas to do like a Recce type division where it's like a max 10 power or something like that. But there's a lot more of these divisions coming out where it lends itself to an LPVO or a 10 power max. So if I had opportunity to, I would put a 4-16 on there. That would be my ideal optic on this. But given that this was built for this specific class and this specific competition, then that's why I put the 1-8. So if that goes away or something changes, you'll see the optic change accordingly. Arca rail. So I'm running the Area 419 Arca rail, and I like this one because it has the teeth in it. So this is to actually help keep it from sliding if you're using their clamp system. So if I ever get a different bipod, if I ever get a different tripod than what I'm currently running, or if I upgrade the head, I'll get the one that has the teeth in it, so that way it grabs them together, they work in together. And because what can happen is with the Arca, it'll occasionally slide if it's not under the correct amount of tension. So with their design with the teeth in it, it works out to help alleviate that. Moving on to bipod. So originally I had the Atlas bipod on there, and I like the Atlas because I like the design. It's a little bit more durable, in my opinion, in terms of the legs. I think it's a little bit more robust in its build, but the things that I didn't like about it is that it had the pan and the tilt feature. Tightening it down, it never stayed tight for me. It kept loosening up, and then it would always start to wobble as I was shooting more and more throughout the day. But then when I started shooting groups with the Harris, one of the things I noticed in recoil was while this does feel like it has a little bit of bounce to it in recoil, it's consistent. And that was a big thing for me because with the Atlas, because the pan feature would loosen up and it would start to rotate one way or another, it felt like my natural point of aim was turning, because what the front of the gun was doing is as it would unload the bipod and then reload, the feet would slowly start to rotate one way or another. And if it's not dead on perfect every time, you would start to get this weird follow-up or weird recoil management of what your reticle is doing on target. So I didn't really notice that at first until I got to shoot the Harris, and then I went back to the Atlas and I was like, okay, I don't like this at all. So I ditched the Atlas. I've gone with the Harris because it does not have that pan feature, and because this is the Badger version with the with your adjustment on the back, and this is a little bit faster. Also, it's easier for me to reach with my little T-Rex arms. The Harris will be on there for the foreseeable future, and I've moved it a little bit further back rather than being on the very front of the gun for the sole purpose of this gives me space to put this on a barricade and or if it's on a strap. So if you guys watched the Recce match, we did have a stage where we had to shoot off of a strap. So I had moved the bipod back on my 12.5, and it allowed me to set the strap there. It gave me enough real estate so that I could have better balance control of the gun. I continued that over to this, and it's worked out great so far. So that's the setup currently. Now there's a couple things that might change, and one of those that I know a lot of people have asked about, am I gonna put a red dot on it? I go back and forth. I have a red dot mount coming that's a prototype that will go on here, and I'll probably put an acro or an RMR on top. We're gonna try it, we're gonna see. The only issue that we might run into putting the dot on top versus off at a 45 is that we noticed in some of the smaller windows that we had to shoot out of at the tactical games, guys who had top mounted dots really struggled to get in a position they wanted to because they had to make accommodations for the optic height. So we'll see. I may end up going with the offset. I may leave it on top. I haven't truly decided yet. And the other thing too is for me, I always see competition as an additional way to train. I don't really see it as solely as competition. It's an opportunity for me to get reps under pressure, under stress, to make hits with that constraint. So I go back and forth about whether or not I want to put a laser and a light on here, because initially when I built this out, it was solely for competition. But if I'm going to spend so much time training with it for competition, then it's probably going to be the gun that I trust the most should something happen. So I don't know. I go back and forth. So you may end up seeing a laser and a light on here at the end of the day, but we'll see. Time will tell. Moving on from there. So for those of you guys who are following along, I think I'm going to start this whole journey on my channel and call it the SPR Chronicles or maybe the SPR Saga, something like that. And it's just following my passion for this side of shooting has grown. And as I'm learning all these new things, kind of bringing you guys along with me as I'm training, as I'm talking to other instructors, and whatever I learn along the way, you guys get to see firsthand. So I'm thinking I'm going to do that. So this is kind of going to be episode 1 of that. But what I did was once I got it all built out, once I got everything set the way that I wanted, it was really important for me to go out and get data right away. So like immediately I grouped it, put together some solid groups out of there. Now I struggled to count. I told you guys earlier, I'm a very simple person. Sometimes I lose count. So I shot a six shot group, and this is that group. And then I was like, well, okay, I need to do a follow-up just to make sure to confirm. And then I ended up shooting a 7-shot group. So there you go. But those are those 2 groups. So we know it is a sub MOA gun. It's probably a quarter MOA gun with the right shooter behind it and the right glass on it. So it's a very capable gun for sure. And then from there, confirm my velocity out of it. So we had already chronoed Taylor's gun, which is a 16-inch, same barrel, different muzzle device, different can. But when we chronoed it, there was no suppressor on it. So we knew what our velocity was roughly going to be, and we felt like it was the same batch of ammo, so it should be within like 10 to 20 feet per second of the same, but it was dead on. So we had our velocity dead on from the get-go. From there, took that information, plugged it into the Kestrel, went out and shot it, and confirmed velocity in the Kestrel as well. And so all my dope lined up with that, and then we did our Cal DSF out at distance, shot it to 1,000 with it first try, so everything was dead on. So all of the the information putting into the ballistic calculator was good information, so we knew the information we were getting out of the back end was good as well. So since then, I've been out testing it, and you guys will be seeing more of those videos of me actually getting out and testing it, but I've been pushing it out and trying to improve some of the things I've learned from Joe and from Ridgeline Defense and Alex and their crew. So looking forward to training more with it. You'll see some more videos of me actually training with it. I think we've got a couple coming up talking about hold versus dialing, along with me showing you some of the behind the scenes of training with it. And you'll just continue to see this journey as my SPR saga goes on. But if there's something you guys feel like I left out, something else you want to know, something you're looking forward to, something you want to see in the series, leave it in the comments down below. Make sure you hit that like and subscribe. Karate chop that bell so you get notified every time I upload a video, and I will see you guys in the next one. Oban.